Thank you, Siren, for coming to chat with me today. We spoke about doing something like Doms Across the Pond. So This is our first proper chat. So I'm really excited about doing this one with you.
Me too. Just get to chat with my friend and talk about important things. And I think we're going to talk about something pretty important today.
We're going to talk about something super, super important. Mental health amongst DOMs, I think, is one of those taboo subjects. And I think a lot of DOMs don't realize that they might have mental health issues or problems with their mental health, or they also might not want to address them as well. And it's really difficult because there is this stigma that we need to be the ones who are strong and in control all the time. And it's really, and I think that also adds to some of the struggle. I think that's the really, really important thing for people to do, is to always just check in with themselves. Always, how do I feel today? You know, is there something that's bothering me? What's bothering me? Let's try and figure out what that is. And I think, you know, as I say, with the expectations that we have in our scene, I think that there might not even be a want to address it sometimes. I think people might hold themselves back from doing things, but people might identify mental health as immediately thinking that something's wrong with them. But using even the term mental health might even trigger people. But it's not, it's just mental health, the health of your brain. Me personally, I've actually just finished cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done it for 18 weeks, and what I was finding was that I was very positive in my outlook. You know, I was very confident, happy, always focused on my goals, but my mind would ruminate a lot over problems, and I would be very overthinking and over processing, and I would find myself getting stuck into these cycles. And but what I would find was the thing that I could identify the most was my behaviors. So I would eat a lot. Like, over the years, my weight have fluctuated. I mean, probably my followers would have noticed how much my weight's gone up and down, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever, I'm happy, I'm fat.
It's whatever. I'm happy at any moment, but really you're struggling because the eating of either overindulging is either not caring because you just don't want to think about it anymore. You don't want to care. You don't want to obsess anymore. And then there's the control of, I'm going to work out a lot and I'm going to eat healthy. And I was actually talking about that with some of my followers the other day, and they had asked me, so what do you think about your weight now? And you know, and that was like, obviously somebody watches me and knows what I'm thinking, because for me, even though one of the mental health issues was anorexia, and I understood I was anorexic, and I got therapy for that, and I've pretty much what I thought I overcame my eating disorders. But what I did was take one habit and change it into another by becoming obsessive over, I have to work out all the time. I have to watch what I eat all the time. I'm only allowed to give myself a reward if I work really hard. Well, that's the same mentality within anorexia, whereas I would not eat, but then as my reward, I would. For sticking with it. And it actually, that question really made me think about how far I've come lately in saying that, you know what, I really am truly happy, because I understand that I still control sometimes, but in order to maintain one way or another means so much restriction and focus on that one thing that I don't have to overwork the other things anymore to attain that. And I can devote the dedication and time to building myself up as a person in my enjoyment rather than doing that. So that was one of the recognitions.
And I think that's really important to say that, because a lot of it is about balance, right?
What I loved about cognitive behavioral therapy was recognizing in myself not just triggers, but the behavior. And the thoughts as well, the thoughts that come along with it too, because you might notice your behaviors, but it's your thought process that leads you up until that point. That's the key part that they get you to really figure out. And there's so much involved in it. The reason why I wanted to speak to you is because I saw you mentioned high functioning anxiety, and that's the thing that resonated with me. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly, it's like a checklist of it was like, it's kind of like, who the hell knows me that well? Yeah. Who's been paying attention? And it's like, okay, I know this about myself.
Yeah. High functioning anxiety is actually not a recognized mental health diagnosis at all.
No, it's not.
And it's not recognized. So that's why it's difficult, because people might project themselves to be confident and happy, but when you
and successful and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Organized, tidy, like all the positive things. And people will look at you to say, oh, that person's got their shit together. You know, there's so many great qualities about having high functioning anxiety, but there's the negative ones that come across. But I think because everybody just sees this, what's in front of them, they assume that you're the strongest person in the room, and then they come to you and they think that they can come to you with their problems, but then their problems become your problems. Then they start festering inside your mind as well, and you start to, because you're also massively empathetic to people, it then becomes this really difficult cycle. And I think that's what happens when we talk about our relationships with our submissive. So if we have a submissive that comes along that has a particularly difficult experience, whether it's in his work life, personal life, whatever it is, we can really feel the emotion from that submissive, and it goes from play to something much deeper, and then we carry the weight of that. And I think there is this assumption that DOMs have perfect mental health, and especially, as I say, if we're presenting ourselves to be this strong dominant person, that nothing like that affects us, when it actually does.
So I mean, obviously I shared that meme because somebody else had it, or that picture because somebody else did, and then other people resonated with it, like yourself, and and it's like, and I already knew that about myself. Like I already knew this, but sometimes it's also just like, okay,
because I didn't
take it away from your therapy.
I did not recognize I had anxiety, for one. I would say sometimes things like, oh, that's making me anxious, I'd say it in passing, like, oh, that's giving me anxiety, but I didn't actually recognize with anxiety, because I know people that have got anxiety, and I look at them and I think, you've definitely got anxiety.
And I never recognized for a long time, because I wasn't always afraid that somebody was saying something negative or things like that. I never had like much of a panic attack. Like I'm a performer for so long. So I would get stage fright, and like those nerves is what I think that at time 10 is what an anxiety attack would feel like. And it's like, I never experienced that. So I'm just like, okay, I'm afraid, but that's not anything normal. But I realize how my anxiety manifests, and again, mine is loss of control. A perceived loss of control. And I have to say that it's not that I don't have control, it's a perceived loss of control. And so I'm trying to do it with the things that I recognize. And is that I can't let go. And I know I can't let go. Like you telling me to let go and just let whatever happen, I'm sorry, that's just never going to happen. That's just not, because my brain is not wired that way, nor do I want to be that out of it. I want to know how to work within it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do I take that and be a positive thing in my life, instead of using it right now as a negative thing that affects me so badly in so many different areas?
Absolutely. That's it. And I think
it is that breaking down.
It's really recognizing the qualities of yourself that are great, and then the qualities of yourself that are a little bit difficult to deal with. But as you say, navigating it in a different way. How do you manipulate that part of yourself, and how do you work within that area that you found difficult before to become manageable? And I think it's really, really good to go through something like therapies, or looking online. As you say, Google is a great place to even understand or to start to understand the complicated minds that we have, because I think people think that the mind and brain is very simple, but we're such complicated beings. We have so many depths and layers, and ways that we interpret things. One person could look at one color and say it's black, another can say it's gray, another one could say it's purple. We all have lots of different ways of how we interpret and how we process and how we navigate ourselves through the world with each other. So there are so many different journeys and ways that we have to be more in touch with ourselves. Think about control, because obviously we want to have control over our submissives, we want to have control over ourselves and everything that we do, but there's sometimes having too much control that's what gets you into that cycle. And as you say, like you letting go of things becomes a bit difficult. So finding the coping mechanisms there is really important. Looking at actually what your goals are, breaking it down, and knowing that you can take something and turn it into a positive. Yeah, I had a great day. Yeah. But if I didn't have so much of a great day there, okay, well, I could,
but then I can also look back and be like, 2 days ago you did this and you did above your minimum goal, so that should equal out. Like, recognize that you're not always going to have that. It's like, what is making me anxious? Like, okay, oh my God, I'm feeling anxious. I got to work. I didn't make sales. I'm starting to feel angry. Okay, recognize I'm starting to feel angry. Why? Because I'm anxious, because I'm scared, because I have a loss of control. Be honest with myself. That's the painful part, is having to be super honest with yourself, with those feelings that make us anxious and we don't want to experience. I'm never ever going to tell anybody that living with this stuff is ever going to be easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not. You can't keep masking. I always have this phrase. I said, you can't fix a broken leg with a plaster. You know, if you recognize that you have these things, that you can't keep patching because it's not
working.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
still
working.
anxious.
It's not working.
I'm still anxious.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it worked after all these years? If this is supposed to be the thing. And it's like, okay, recognize too. And I think the big thing is with CBT is recognizing that you're not going to change.
Yes.
That you're not willing to do that, or it's just something that you can't. Like, I can't change the core fundamental of who I am. I can't change that I have triggers. I can't change that. I can only change how I deal with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Recognizing the behavior, being cognizant of the behavior, and then you can find the triggers. Like, socially, I don't feel like I'm so much of an introvert though. Like, I'm just kind of a homebody anyway. But again, I've recognized that that's because it was my need to control an outside situation. So I would focus on work because that's what I could control. And this is what I could do to handle that other situation. So like, introversion for me is okay. But I think with the pandemic, it was that there isn't the spending, there isn't these outside factors coming in for me that I could really focus on. That weirdly, as much as I've been working, it's also as much as really coming to terms with myself, and my business actually helped me recognize, you know, that I still have a lot to go. I still have a distance to go, but where I've also been able to make the changes necessary, the very painful changes and decisions necessary to take care of me. Because without me, I can't take care of what I'm supposed to take care of. So it sucks because in recognizing this, I have to change some behaviors, which is going to affect my financial bottom line in my business. And I have to come to terms with, well, that's just going to have to be.
Yeah. But the outcome though of that will be better. It will always be better. It will be better. You know, you'll know that you need to focus at the end goal every single time when you address something like this. You're making those changes for a good reason for yourself. Every single time.
Because I'll be more. You know, I'll be able to handle the things, and I'll be able to live within those restrictions instead of having, I want to be happy. Well, what does that mean?
What does it mean? Yeah.
What does happy mean to me? What am I seeking from other people? Am I able to give that to myself? Am I able to control these behaviors and stuff like that? And I think also in my journey, it's also really helping my subs too. I've always thought about my brain and how weird it is, and I always thought it was messed up. But the older I get, the more I feel like my brain is a very magical place. I mean, without my anxiety and my need to control, and my need to control the situations that are outside of my control, I have built a great business. I have become an amazing Dom because I can understand. I know how to connect with people. I also know how to set my own boundaries and what's good for me. And as tough as all those things are, like, I wouldn't be as amazing as I am without it.
That's the thing.
You know?
There are so many good qualities and there are so many good characteristics about having, you know, being able to function highly with anxiety. And that is your professionalism. That's your ability to constantly work at your business and not find any excuses of wanting to, you know, become bogged down by how difficult this job actually is. You're constantly persevering and being like, no, I'm going to be the best for myself. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to, I mean, these are all really good things.
It pushes you.
Yeah, you're completely proactive, you're detail oriented, you're helpful with the community because you want to see other people rise up as well at the same time, and you're active, and you're completely loyal in your relationships to your submissives, relationships with your friends and your other dominant friends as well. So, and this calm and collected persona that you have with anxiety, but being able to function highly with it, is that your subs trust you completely. They're obviously being vulnerable in front of you, and them taking that first step to come and see you already is very worrying for a lot of them. So when they come to you, and then they can see you being this outwardly calm and collected person, it makes them feel great. It makes them feel really good. So having high functioning anxiety, or functioning highly with anxiety, it's got great qualities. I mean, I love the fact that I've got it.
I think that you do need to change the language from high functioning anxiety to I have anxiety and I'm highly functioning in it. Because then we fall into this, there's nothing I can do about it because it's a diagnosis. And that's how we feel about mental health. Honestly, like, I'm depressed, but I don't want to go see a shrink because they're just going to try and get me to do this. And it's just not things I want to do. They're going to have you do things you don't want to do. They're not there to be your friend. Your friends are there to be your friends, but your friends aren't also your therapist. And we need to get rid of that too. Like, I should be able to talk to my friends. You know what? I understand you are really, really depressed. I understand that you are going through a lot right now, but baby, I am not the one to be able to handle this. That's right. And that's how we need to be as friends too, is like really encourage them to take care of themselves. That's what a good friend is. It's not somebody who's always going to be your yes man. They're going to be the person that's going to push you.
Your friends don't always have the answers, and you can't expect your friends to have all the answers.
I can't make my friends happy.
You can't.
I can't make my friends happy. I can be there for them. I can provide for them. But if they've got so much going on that's going to constantly get them, the best I can ever do is just listen. And sometimes that's just not enough.
Exactly. Sometimes it's not enough, and you have the awareness enough to know that your own boundaries can be tested, and sometimes friendships get to the point where you're like, do you know what, I'm sorry, but I have to walk away from this because it's becoming too much. And you could have all the best intentions in the world, and you can give advice, and you could give help, and you could give support, but sometimes you do sadly have to cut those times. I mean, I've lost a few friends this year because of those particular reasons. When I've started to say I need to focus on myself and my mental health and make sure that I'm okay, it's made them a little bit and it has.
It's like, well, why aren't you there for me? And it's like,
no, it's exactly. And I've friends that I've had for 15, 16, 17 years, it's the same situations, but ultimately we all have a duty of care to ourselves first and foremost.
We need to think of therapy as something that is good for us, and not like thinking that, again, that you're broken. And so that's where that high functioning anxiety comes in. It sounds like a diagnosis when it's not. You're not going to be diagnosed as high functioning anxiety. It's anxiety. And I mean, maybe you might, but from my therapy, I've learned that there's no such thing as high functioning anxiety. It's your anxiety and how you are functioning in it. To others, it may seem high functioning. Okay.
Yes.
But I don't have agoraphobia. Like, I don't go outside simply because I'm afraid of being outside. I just don't want to interact with people right now. I don't have the energy to do that. And it's just because I'm so focused on myself right now. And it may sound selfish, but maybe that's exactly what I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not for somebody else to determine. That's only for me to determine. And if I have to say, I'm sorry, this may lose our friendship, but if the fact is that we're going to end our friendship because I have to take care of me right now, and you can't recognize that, then this isn't the friendship that I needed anyway, and it's just going to end. It's going to have run its course. And I have to be okay with that. But I have found that a lot of my friends, when I just need time for me for a little while, they've come to understand that, because sometimes they need just time for themselves too.
That's right. And I think that's a good thing when you have good friendships. They recognize that. They recognize what you need, and they also recognize what they need too, and they listen when, you know, if you're a good friend enough to tell them, you know, I think that you need a bit of a break, then they get it, you know, and that's the measure of a good friendship always. Yeah.
Right. They're not taking it personally.
Yes.
You know, and also I've also learned to say, instead of already assuming that my friends can help me or have the availability and emotional resources to listen to me for a while and cry and moan or stress my fears or whatever, right? Especially right now with COVID, because everybody's going through some sort of fear.
Yeah.
I just say, I text them, I need my friend. And they can respond. And if they do, then I know that they're capable of doing it. But then they also know that I'm not necessarily there to drain them. I just need my friend for a little bit. That this isn't heavy like therapy, because I need to recognize that in myself too. Like, no, this is a therapist thing. This is not a friend thing. This is, I need somebody to set me straight. I think so many people think that therapy, mental health therapy, or diagnoses and stuff like that, and the steps to take care of it means you're going to be cured of it. Yeah. And that's not the case. You're not going to be cured of something that isn't wrong with you. Like there is literally nothing wrong with you. This is just simply the way that your brain has developed and works. Yes. You need to find the things that are going to be able to function in society. And that's where CBT comes in, and other therapies and stuff, even microdosing for some people and how that works for them. It's for you to do every day to be able to manage that. Now, I think I have a pretty good grasp considering where I was. Am I kind of the point where I think I would like to be? No, I'm not, but I'll get there eventually. I've also seen on the other side where I'll see that somebody's apparently very productive and they're doing these things, and then they'll say, oh, I have anxiety. And I'm like, okay, so I see what we're doing here. And then it's like, I'll feel fine because I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. Yes. You know, they're not the perfect person. There is no such thing. And it becomes, the more that people talk about it, the more I think we break down the stigma that DOMs are like this. And then the subs and clients and all of that can start to understand that I know where you're coming from, but we can start recognizing the boundaries that we need to set up. And I think it's kind of, and I don't think it's funny in a ha-ha way. I think it's funny in the how we've come to think about ourselves, right? And the relatability as a collective whole is that we really think about it, you know, we're actually only our brains.
Yes.
Like the whole of who we are is only in our head. Like I can live without my arms or my skeleton. Like people survive all the time without limbs and parts and stuff like that. So we're not that. So why do we care more for the armor that carries who we are, you know, than we do to who we are? And I think that's where we need to start changing maybe that concept of like, take care of you. When we say take care of you, somebody has a cold. Yeah, okay, take care of you. But I really mean like, I know you're suffering. I want you to take care of you. Yeah. You know, yeah, I know your body sucks. Like that.
You at the core.
I want you to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where mental health comes in, and working with subs and stuff like that. I mean, I'm able to take it outside of a session too. Like I listen to what they say and how they're saying things. And then like, I'll bring it up to them. Be like, I don't want you speaking negatively about yourself. And they're like, well, no, but I was like, no. It's even the little things like that you're doing that will never make you feel confident. Because you're talking to yourself that way.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Don't talk to yourself the way you wouldn't talk to somebody else. You know, and it's like, I had to realize that confidence and self-love doesn't come from the outside, and it never will.
That's right.
There's nobody else that can give you what you're looking for. Only you can give you what you're looking for.
That's right. And if you have expectations from other people to give it to you, it will never satisfy you.
I think when we talk about always just what's the trigger? Yes. I think we need to identify the behavior. Like, what don't you like first, and then find that trigger.
Absolutely.
What is it? It's a loss of control for me. Anytime I feel like a loss of control, I have to overly control something.
Yeah.
And that could be I'm overly controlling in my business, and I will work and I will motivate and I'll I'll innovate and I'll do all these things. And I'm like, yeah, I can maintain this. And then I'm like, okay, I'm recognizing right now I'm on a high. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work because I feel so good that it's really not a maintainable level.
Yes.
So then what's going to happen is I'm going to tire myself. Oh yeah, I'm going to be good for a couple of weeks. Then I'm going to exhaust myself, and then I'm going to not be as productive, and I'm going to get on myself for not being as productive. And I'm going to start controlling things like my eating or my sleeping, or overly controlling something to have a sense of balance.
Balance, yes, yeah. Again, it's this balance thing. It is. It's recognizing within yourself, am I pushing myself too far? I would have exactly the same things where I would achieve burnout and I would have to just shut down for God knows how long, because I would go days, working, seeing friends, traveling back to back, coming to my house for half an hour, flying off somewhere else, and always just constantly doing something, because I felt like I had something to prove to myself, to my friends, my family, that I can do this job and I can do it really well. And I know I'm fucking good at it, but how am I going to maintain this pace? It's not possible for anybody to maintain this pace, and trying to figure out, why am I working so hard? Like I don't need to work that hard to be able to prove that I'm good at what I do.
Right.
So, and it was a case for me. And actually the pandemic, I think it's been a great opportunity for a lot of people to really address their personal circumstances. When I started my CBT, it was actually just before the pandemic hit, but the next few weeks, this was perfect. I could sit down, I could address my mental health, I could do the work and not be distracted by anything else. Life completely slowed down and stopped, to the point where I recognized that I can relax. I can do that. I can log off my social media. I can just, be with my friends when I'm with my friends, and I don't have to go on social media and be with my friends at the same. I can separate those things.
Right.
I don't have to do everything at one time. I'm not missing anything.
Where I used to be like, no, I can't watch a show on Netflix. I can't sit and watch anything because I have to work. If I can sit here and relax, I can sit here and make money. Like, come on. That's the hustle. That's the hustle. Everybody talks about the hustle, and I'm like, okay, I'm not making money because I'm not hustling enough. Maybe I just need to work, instead of 10 hours today, I'll work 12. So let's get to this, and it's a constant push. Like, I don't need relaxation. I want it, but and then I feel like I have to reward myself with that. And again, that goes back to the eating disorder behaviors. I have a sense of needing absolute control over things that are uncontrollable in my life. And I have to come to terms sometimes that there are things that I just can't control.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I
can only control me. And if I'm getting too wound up with this, then maybe I really do need to sit and watch that Netflix show, or how about when it's slow, then you know what, I'm going to sit here and watch Netflix as I'm doing some of my social media. So then I have that nice balance where I feel like I'm not doing something, but I'm also allowing myself not to stress about it.
Exactly. How do you think that your mental health plays a part in your relationships with other dominants in the scene, whether it's men or women? Do you think that comes into play sometimes?
I do.
In what way?
Probably because I also read a lot on behaviors and stuff like that to be able to recognize it. Obviously in our subs, like, are they a visual learner? Are they auditory? Are they physical? Understanding how people learn and behaviors to be able to adapt to the sub and create that unique experience with them to bring out the best experience, because that's my end goal. Is when somebody has an amazing experience and I was able to facilitate that. That's my joy. So I think with men, it's more of it's kind of really put me in a general sense in my personal life, not as much professionally, but kind of, is recognizing that their behaviors do affect me and I can't change that, but I've been changing me and I shouldn't have to if they're not going to. So it's kind of put up right now a boundary and a wall with me in interactions with men, that it's like, okay, I'm not here to deal with your stuff right now. And it's not that I don't like you. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't want to be there. It's the fact that I do want to be there and I do care about you, but I also care about me. And right now I can't deal with you.
Yeah. That's the boundaries. That's really, really super important there. Boundaries. If you're that in tune with yourself, you know what your own limits are, and you'll know whether your mental space will allow somebody else in there.
in there. Like, are you going to contribute to me? Because if you're just going to drain me, trust me, I do enough draining of myself.
Yes.
I don't need you to take more.
Exactly.
You know, it's more like, can you benefit me? And that's where the subs come in. Like, you're benefiting me. We're benefiting each other. And that's good. This is not a drain thing. This is also, we're giving.
Yes.
But with women, it's kind of the same. Where I recognize that I can get closer with other doms and have that relatability, and it really builds that community of where I don't need to talk about how to spank somebody. Like, really, I don't. Like, I don't need to know the techniques and stuff in a community. What I need from a community is relatability.
Yes.
And why we do what we do in that commonality, but that's not the only thing we ever talk about.
Yes.
You know, it's things like doms across the pond, talking about important issues that affect us not only in our community, but ourselves.
Exactly. Us as human beings, how do women connect as women outside of the scene? I mean, I'm very particular about who I do associate with and I do talk with, and I was finding that connecting with doms was difficult because all they wanted to do was actually talk about spanking all the time, where I'm like, come on, like, can we talk about what we saw on TV? Like, what Netflix show are you watching?
But I think that's kind of the thing.
Let's switch off for a little bit and talk about some other stuff.
Right. I think we've built this idea that that's what our commonality is, so that's what we'll talk about. And I think they're in the same position too, that they just don't know.
Yeah.
How do you broach talking about, hey, I noticed you might have anxiety. You want to talk about it? Yeah. And you're like, I'm showing that I have anxiety? What do you mean? You know, so you're going to change the subject, you know, because we're dealing with the same things. We have to understand that they're probably a little anxious and paranoid too. Like, why is this person talking to me? What's your end goal? What do you want?
Yes.
You know, because that's part of anxiety too, is being very, very cautious of people and their desires with you.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think we do that to each other and not necessarily intentionally. And that's where I've come to learn, like, okay, I'm going to make myself open. I'm going to open the door. Like, you want to talk with me? Great. I'm here to talk with you, but I'm going to put the ball in your court. And when you're ready to reach out, then that's cool. But the only thing I need to do in the meantime is lead you to believe that I'm truly here for you. If you really want to talk, if you really want to do that, you know, I have no reason to use any of your information for any nefarious reasons.
No, exactly.
You know, like, it's like, I don't like, if I'm saying I need you here for me, or I'm here for you, then I'll need you there for me. So one of the things I did not too long ago was I was having a day. And I really didn't think it was like therapy needed, but it also wasn't like I need anybody to take care of the situation. I just needed somebody to listen. Just, I don't need you to solve this problem. You know, I don't need you to take on the weight of it, but can you just let me vent it out?
Yeah, that's all you need
for a minute. Like, and so I posted, are there any fellow sex workers out there or mutuals who would be willing to let me just vent for a minute? I could really use you. And the response I got was great. Like, a lot of people were just like, yeah. And I prefaced it like, you know, don't have to worry about like taking an emotional toll or anything. Like, I literally just need you to listen. And that was probably one of the most cathartic things I did, was connecting within my community, but showing my vulnerability. I wasn't giving a lot of personal details of why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I felt good about that. You know, because I'm not talking bad about the other person or anything else like that. I was just feeling something and I needed to let out what I was feeling. And that helped. And I think if we do more of that, we'll build a better community. It'll take time.
I absolutely agree.
So what do you find is probably the most recognizable thing about you that you've been wanting to change when it comes to being a dom?
I think where my biggest struggles was sort of melding who I am in my personal life to who I am in my dom life. I mean, they're pretty much, they are the same person,
right? But
it was, I guess, my coping mechanisms when it comes to how I deal with things in the real world and how I deal with things in my dom life, and trying to find a bit more cohesion with that. And I think that social media does play a big part of my journey as a dominatrix. I don't actually have any personal social media. All my friends are in my phone, and my relationships with my friends and family are, you know, face to face. Whereas I started domination online, and most of my work comes from online. So it's trying to navigate how I would deal with any sort of real life situations and issues in an online world. So that was where I was finding a lot of the problems were coming and showing themselves, I guess, well, not even showing themselves, just in my mind, how I was processing how to deal with those things in a different way. And what I was finding was, again, it was, you know, me presenting the best part of myself, like, yeah, everything's cool, everything's fine, everything's rosy, happy days. But inside I was like, oh my God, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like,
and then,
this doesn't feel
and
good.
even like when you have slow days.
Yeah.
Like how much, like, you can be, things are great and you're riding that high, and then all of a sudden, like, you get those inevitable slow, not days.
Yeah.
Then sometimes weeks, and you're like, okay, so what's wrong with me? And then you start internalizing that and separating the business from the person.
Yes.
You know, and it starts because you're so personally endeavoured into your business, you know, as the dom and on social media. And then it's like a quick spiral down, and you're like, okay, so I'm putting my worth into what my value is as a business. And that's not healthy.
It's not healthy at all, but especially because when you know yourself, I mean, you know, you and I, we know ourselves very well, but when other people don't seem to know you, or they make judgments towards you, and that's one of the things of high functioning anxiety, is that you know, you're always really confident and happy and very welcoming and warm with other people, that if people get the wrong impression or the wrong idea with you, or and it might not even be anything that you've done wrong, but they will take it and they will turn it into something else, and then it ends up playing on your mind, and you just think, well, why did that happen? Because I know I'm a good person, I know I'm like really liked and loved and respected, but that one, it could just take one person to say something, and you're like, oh my God, like, why? And then you start to feel bad about yourself, you know,
like, how did I represent myself like that? What did I show myself? And it's like, okay, I make mistakes, and like, maybe in my mind, like, I'm only in my world, right? And how, you know, when you're, especially during COVID, like, my world is me right now. And it's like, I'm not interacting on those.
Yeah, you are just
like,
you are just focused on yourself, and that's
my whole world, right? So, okay, I didn't explain that in the way that I should have. And then it's coming into owning your own responsibility in the situation that's at. Like, okay, instead of getting defensive, that's one of the painful parts, is admitting you're wrong. Like, okay, you know what, that was not my intention. And granted, intentions are not supposed to be important. It's the effect, but the intention has a place. That I wasn't meaning to be that person. That's how it came off. And I know my intention doesn't mean something, but I am recognizing that my intention and my behavior were not in line together in a way that you would understand. And obviously, if a lot of people are upset about this, then it was me. It was my behavior. And okay, I need to take the painful step of, some people are not going to think that I can change, and some people are not going to accept, you know,
that's
the
it.
reality.
It's the balance. It's that fine line again. It's like knowing that what you say is valid and what you say is true. You know, sometimes we might not express ourselves in the best way. Sometimes we might feel upset at the time. We might feel angry about something at the same time. And it is just a case of, you know, either if you've said something wrong, apologizing for it. You know, we all have our egos, and sometimes our egos do need to take a little bit of a bruising sometimes in order for us to
all the time.
All
the time. All the time. Like, no, I'm confident, I got this. And then it's like, oh,
it's like,
okay, maybe I shouldn't have poked that bear. You know,
exactly.
Honestly, like,
Exactly.
That just made me look like a jackass. Yeah. And it's like, and sometimes, you know, I want to be a jackass because it's like, no, I don't agree with you. Like, and this is X, Y, Z, but I'm not going to engage in that. Or like, you know what, it's recognizing those behaviors.
Exactly.
How we do it. And within that anxiety, like, am I acting out because, and then I have to question myself, am I acting out because I feel a loss of control? Is it because I feel anxious about something? Mm-hmm. Or am I, am I saying negative things about myself that nobody really is? You know, so
and it's also recognizing as well that when you say something and it is valid, to really understand that if somebody's going to react to you, they might not have the best intentions for you as well. You know, there are some people that are just waiting to have a fight. They're waiting to say something crappy towards you, and it's about learning not to take that weight onto your shoulders, because that used to happen to me quite a lot.
Right. And because I think they might be going through the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that helps me understand, like, okay, well, I don't know. I really don't think you mean that personally, because honestly, you don't know me.
Yes.
So like, I really don't think you're meaning to be that as a personal attack. I think you're scared. I think you're angry. I think you have a lot of issues that you're seeing right now. And I'm just not going to engage in this, because it's not going to be beneficial for you or me to continue this argument or this fight or whatever's going on. One of us is going to have to concede.
And even when you do that, and even when you do that, you have to be prepared for the other person to not give the same level of calm response as you have. Even if you want to try and resolve any issues, the other person still might not be willing, and you could have all the best intentions in the world to try and
if they want to leave, they got to leave. And I got to think that that's nothing personal on me. That's really their decision.
And I think with this day and age, and you know, I'll mention social media, I think, in every single conversation I have with somebody, because it plays such a big part of our lives now.
It does.
Is how that adds to any sorts of doubts you might have about yourself, or any sort of problems or issues you might have. They're always amplified through social media.
Because that's also right, because social media is the social collective.
Yes.
So, and this is where we recognize it more so than in our daily lives, because I'll go to the grocery store and I don't know anybody in that store, and we're bumping into each other, or we're crossing our paths somehow, but we're not engaging in the physical and not the actual person. So our world experiences and kind of what we know are okay, they're fine. But then when we get online, that's the social collective right there. And we get everybody else's ideas. And we understand, if you take a big step back from social media and look at what that collective looks like, that is the collective expectations that we have built in society, from religious influences, cultural influences, generational differences, and how we're all expected to be, and what the idea of perfection is, and not realizing that that's just the collective. This is the average. It doesn't mean that's everybody. You know, and what that means. And it's like separating yourself from that collective kind of brings you back to feeling a little bit better. I definitely say that social media amplifies my anxiety.
And mine too. Yeah,
so much.
As I said, I don't have any personal social media. I don't need it. But with this, and when I came to when I first started Domination, which was almost 8 years ago now. Oh my God. Yeah, it'll be almost 8 years. I was like, great, this is amazing. I'm having a great time. Positive, happy, great. You know, I love it here. I love everybody, and everybody's amazing. I had this really kind of like rose-tinted glass.
Step out of it.
Yeah, I had these rose-tinted glasses on, thinking that everything is fabulous and sunshine and rainbows. And then over the years, I started to get beaten down more and more. And this is when I started to notice, as in not notice, but things were coming to the surface of these anxieties, and started to doubt myself, where I'd never doubted myself before. I loved myself. I thought I was great, you know, I really did. I just loved my life and everything. But because of the kind of quite overwhelming amounts of negativity there are on social media, that's when I started to realize that I had to readdress how I process that within myself, and how people's perceptions of me were shaking my foundations. You know, as I said, I was really confident and happy with who I was, but people I didn't even know or care about would make me doubt myself, and even that in itself became a thought that I would think over and over again. I'd think, why? But I'm really nice to people, and I'm really.
This is what people really think about me.
Yeah.
What? This proves it. See, that one stranger that I've never met has taken a couple of words off of his screen to judge my whole character in life. I use it to justify the negative things I've said myself.
Yes.
And that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous. So it's like going to that Dr. Seuss quote, you know, those who mind don't matter, and those who or what is it? Those who mind don't matter.
Yeah.
And those who matter don't mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to think of that. I have to remind myself of that. No, that's their perception off of a few words, and that's their lived experiences. That's the narrative that they want to say, and I can't control that. But that has nothing to do with me.
Exactly. There's a difference.
Now I can definitely recognize a common denominator, though. I'll say, okay, if there's a bunch of people up saying this stuff, okay, well then that must be me. That's a good time.
But sometimes also it's them. So don't forget that.
I have to take the situation too. Like if there's like a mob of it, and especially people I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to take into account, are these people that know me, who have engaged with me and stuff like that? And if not, then that's not valid either, just because a lot of people are saying it.
Yeah.
It has to be those who I value their opinion. I know them. They're my friends, or they're the colleagues that I respect. They're the fans that have purchased, or those who have been there for me and stuff like that. I have to look at the quality of not the person, because everybody's valid. I have to look at the quality of how that represents in my life. Value system.
How over a whole have they contributed to your well-being?
Right.
If there are their intentions to be good and supportive to you, all
to knock me down.
Yeah, or is it to be that other person who just thinks about yourself, or they're waiting for you to make that mistake because they there is people that would be great fans of you, but as soon as you make that one mistake, they're like, oh, that's it, I'm done.
That's it, I'm done. Cancel culture. You're done. Exactly. You're done. You did one stupid thing I didn't like, and you're done for the rest of your life.
Well, that really shows that their intentions were never good to start with, and that's a good thing for you, because then you realize
they're looking for the negative.
Yeah, good. You've cancelled yourself. Actually, you haven't cancelled. You cancelled yourself, and I know that I'm not going to engage with you again, so thanks.
And it's just like, okay, I don't hate you, but like, you're not bringing anything beneficial to me. So it's that opinion's not going to matter in the way that you want it to.
Yes, and
but I'm not going to give you the power that you want either. I mean, I don't know their intentions or anything else like that. I think it's more just coming down to how I react to it. Like, I can't put much thought into it. I just have to say, well, that's what that person wants, but that's not what I want to give them. They don't get that part of me. I'm very social on social media because it's safe for me to be so. Like, I can engage in a bunch of different interactions in a day, but I can also pull away when I want to. Like, because I always feel like I can. In person, I don't always feel like I can be like, okay, I think I'm kind of over. Like, I need to go, or I'm just uncomfortable right now. And it's recognizing those little things for me, instead of just forcing myself to do the things that I think I need to do. And that's where I just open myself up, and those who are attracted to that will come in.
That's right.
And be part of my life. Like, I don't see a lot of the things going on until I step out of that. I step out of the echo chamber that I've built, and I will go outside of my echo chamber, and I'm like, that's exactly why I built my echo chamber. I'm going right back in, because like, I need to know what's going on and stuff like that. But also, I don't need to know what's going on in every little drama, whatever like that. I don't. And so I'll turn it off.
Yeah, it's not important.
And those things that are important. Societal issues, if it's like a pervasive issue in the community I need to be aware about, or something like that. But like some of the things, just they're trivial. To be very honest, they're just plain trivial, and just don't need to be in my own collective. And so I'm gonna let go. I'm not gonna worry about it. I will mute whoever it is if I just don't want to see it and stuff like that. It's not that I don't like the person. It's just I just think the situation is just not for me. And I've pulled away, and I've probably been called names for that or whatever. But it's more just like, your world isn't my world, and I need to control my world.
Yeah, exactly. Ever since I started following you, I absolutely love what you post, because you're so open, you're so honest, and
you're
open. You're so open and so honest. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And there are so many things that I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk to her about that. Oh my God, I want to talk to her about that. But this is the perfect way to express this vulnerability that you were talking about, is by being open and allowing yourself to have conversations. And have, meet other women and talk to other women, because I think also there is this kind of thing that also happens, that doms are in groups and cliques, but you can still find your connections with women. It's still entirely possible.
Yeah.
You're in a big community.
You build your community.
You build
and how you build your community is not just reaching out to anybody and everybody. What you do is you make yourself vulnerable.
Yes.
You open yourself up. Like, my online is, obviously I talk about a lot of things. I have my opinions. People are going to agree, some are not. Some are going to challenge me, and some of those challenges have got me to think differently. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Challenge me. Yes. But also some of my opinions, I know they're not going to change. I know my stances aren't going to change, because they are solidified by information and experience. Yes. And how I am. And that's how I relate to the world. And that's fine. I mean, there are some things that I don't want to appease people, like certain groups of people. I'm not going to bend myself to be what somebody else wants me to be, and that's what I was trying so hard for so long. And that's what impacted my anxiety, is I was trying to be what everybody thought I should be, or where I thought I fit in, by adapting myself to them rather than just being myself. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, no, of course I don't know how to do that, because it's not me, however, I'm going to show me. You're welcome into my world. I want you here. Yeah. But if how I am isn't comfortable for you, I don't blame you.
Do you know what? I found it kind of quite the opposite, because I was myself, and I've always been myself this whole time, but I felt that myself was not accepted. I mean, when I first started, especially because financial domination, it actually wasn't recognized that much in the UK when I first started, all those many years ago. There was probably only about 5 other doms in our whole country that was doing it, only about 5. Yeah. So when I came along, this British black girl, it was like, oh, what's she doing? Who's she? And she's doing it really well. And I was always myself this whole time, but because there are certain industries or different groups of people that had already established themselves, and I wasn't really wanting to fit into anywhere, because I don't really want to fit into places. I prefer to be myself and then make connections with people one-on-one, or if I go out somewhere, I prefer to do things in that way, rather than, there's a group, I'm going to get myself in there. I've never been like that. Even since school, my mum, this is a story. So my mum, my mum made me my first friend at school, okay? So we were at the playground, and she went over to this parent. She had a daughter, and she was like, here, meet my daughter, these two can be friends. And we became friends. But the group of friends that she was friends with, they were really popular, really, really popular people. But I didn't connect with them, because I just felt it was all about reputation. So I drifted away from them a little bit, and I found my 2 friends, and we were kind of like geeks together, and that's how I felt more comfortable in just a smaller group, where I could actually make some real genuine friendships and connections. And I'm still friends with those girls now, from 12 years old. So that's where I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable with one-on-one connections, and as you said, building your own community, rather than thinking about if there's groups here and groups there. It's finding the people that you make the one-on-one connections with. And this is why I'm enjoying getting to know you through these chats and these calls, because we're forming our own little community here. So.
Exactly. And it's like I knew who I was, but I was trying to conform, and I had to learn that I have to be okay with me.
How do you continue to look after your mental health?
I have to recognize that I'm flawed and that I can't control everything. I know what works for me, because it's been so many years of therapy and so much work on myself, and no, I can't always go and afford a therapist, but I do have Google. I do have access to research out there and different therapies and books and stuff. Same books that these therapists have access to. The only difference is they knew how to look for it and study it, and with guidance, and I just need to look for it. I need to put in the work to understand me if I can't afford it. So I have to put in the work. And so I started doing that, and it was more, I'm not great at it. I have my moments. And then I also know what I do to make myself feel better. Not just recognizing what makes me feel bad, but also what legitimately makes me feel good. And isn't everybody with high functioning anxiety just want to relax for a little bit?
Yes. We just want to be able to turn off for just a few minutes.
So I do that.
Yeah.
I put it towards things like I force myself to let go.
So what advice would you give then to any other DOMs that are listening to our conversation? I mean, maybe some of these things resonate with them, the things that we've talked about, and they haven't maybe thought that, you know, any of these are an issue or anything like that. Do you have any advice for them?
I mean, reach out to the community. I don't know if I'm the one to build it or what like that, because I don't know if I can take on yet another thing. But maybe there needs to be a community board somewhere about anxiety and stuff. But really just kind of reach out to those who you trust. And honestly, I tend to kind of trust anonymously a little bit more, like somebody that I'm not super close with. I just find that sometimes it's just nice to talk with somebody new about it, like who just doesn't have any preconceived notions or whatever to talk. But also we do have pineapple support.
Yes.
You know, our community is very blessed with that.
Cupcake Girls as well, another great organization, really great organization. Right. I think
that reach out to the resources, you know, and honestly, I think if you recognize that you have issues going on, but you don't do it, you need to reevaluate yourself in this industry.
For real.
Because you're not taking care of you.
Yeah, it always comes out in some sort of way every single time, whether it's a play session with your submissive, if you go too far with your submissive and you end up hurting them. I mean, sadly, I've seen it happen before where I've seen DOMs play too hard and the sub has been completely broken and crying and just like, you're having to look at the DOM like, are you okay? Not if the sub's okay, is the DOM okay? You know, because
you pushed yourself pretty hard. Like, do you really think that this is okay? And I think, you know, a lot of people are being more open about it. Mental health, and you know, and within this community is about communication, and those who are really into it, I think, really recognize it. And I've been doing a really good job about talking about it openly and honestly, and having more things like this and articles coming out on FemFedFed. You know, there's so much going on that there is a collective growth of conversation.
And I think to summarize everything that we've talked about, it is a case of checking in with yourself. How do you feel? You know, doing the certain job that you're doing, you know, practicing the certain fetishes that you're practicing. Is it going to trigger something in you? Is your mental health going to be tested? Your interactions with people in the community, is your mental health being tested? Again, boundaries.
How does that affect my anxiety?
Yeah, how does that affect your anxiety? Your boundaries, you know, your submissive comes to you with boundaries in play. He tells you exactly what his limits are. What are your limits in that session? Is your mental health going to be triggered in any sort of play that you're having? And again, it's, you know, making sure every single interaction you have, you know what your boundaries are.
What the boundary, all of them, all the relationships that you have. And those goalposts are going to move person to person.
Yes. And over time as well, because you learn new things about yourself as you go. Life's a journey. There might be something that you find acceptable from some people or some person from day 1. Day 10, it might be completely different because you have
it's like, no, you're draining me a little too much. That goalpost is going to have to move. Or you know what, you know, you make me feel good, so I can be a little bit more vulnerable.
Exactly.
Like it's my boundaries.
Self-awareness is the biggest thing for anybody in our community, whether you're a dominatrix, whether you're a kinkster or submissive. Self-awareness, always take time to check in with yourself. You know, I now once a month, I do like a mental health day. I sit down and I write in a diary. I say, okay, these are the cool things that I achieved last month. These are the things that I think I might need to improve or work on. And then I'm like, right, cool. I know I'm more on track now. And I know that the work that I've done personally is not going to go to waste. And I have more of that balance that we were talking about. Is, you know, learning to work through or learning to highly function with anxiety. So I hope that the women watching feel good about us talking about this and how we understand mental health, because I think mental health is one of those things that, you know, people push away. They push away and they actually want to learn about it, because once you start learning about it, that's when you can actually take control of the situation more, you know.
And so you can read on your own too. Like let's not put that aside. Sometimes we don't always need the professionals to tell us what to do. Sometimes we just need the information. And the information is out there, but you have to put in the work. If you can't afford it, put in the work. If you can afford it, do that and let somebody else do the work. But
we're lucky in the UK. I mean, I don't know how long the NHS is going to be around for, the National Health Service, but we do have a lot of free resources for, you know, mental health professionals and mental health diagnoses. It does take a little bit of work to get the right help, I will say here, but it is out there. It is out there, and it's completely invaluable. So if you're in the UK and you love the NHS, because obviously they've been doing wonderful work for us during COVID-19 and the pandemic, then please do get in contact, you know, with your local doctor. You know, explain to them your situation, explain how you're feeling, and mention cognitive behavioral therapy if you think that anything that we've talked about here is of interest to you. So that's for the UK. And in the US, what sort of services?
You just got to look at your local health authorities and see what kind of free services they have, or a sliding scale for income. But I think I'd rather say, like, sex workers, like fellow doms and stuff like that, please use Cupcake Girls. Please use Pineapple Support. And since it is done by peers for sex workers,
I know,
along with therapists, like, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to listen. And no, sometimes you don't need somebody to tell you how to do things. But what I love about Pineapple Support is that as a peer, you are to recognize when it is beyond what you can give. Like, you're there to listen, not to give advice or diagnoses or anything else like that. But if they feel you need that, then we refer you to a therapist who is there to help you at no charge. So use those things. If you have your insurance, use insurance, but, you know, take mental health seriously. It literally is who you are. And it's not always about when it becomes the worst. You know, like, don't let it get that far. You know, start helping yourself and love yourself enough to give that to yourself.
That's right. Exactly. You deserve it. Everybody deserves to look after themselves. Everybody deserves to have the best life possible. Everybody needs to have a good time.
I hope you are able to find the therapy you need.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Siren, for talking to me about this. This has also been therapy for me.
Wow. Yes. Just getting that community together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I hope to talk to you again soon. So thank you. And I hope everybody enjoyed this video.
Bye.
Bye.